Hi everyone, thank you for coming along for today's episode. We're going to be checking out the main news stories from around Thailand, a few regionally. Now let me tell you that it's a very windy day today in the southern Thai island of Phuket, and if you're heading out onto the waters today it might be a bit bumpy, which I suppose brings me to say hello to our sponsors, 5 Star Marine, for premium private charter trips off to the islands off Phuket. So thank you very much to 5 Star Marine. Let's go to our stories. And we're starting off with ThaiPBSWorld.com. And this is a bit of an overview of that whole Chinese triad grey business story that started last October, when police raided what they thought was a car wash. They found a gambling den in the back, and it started, a domino situation where they started finding all sorts of things that, the public at least were quite surprised about. The police, maybe not so much, but let's see what Thai PBS are reporting. China's triads and corrupt Thai cops undermined national security, says the headline on Thai PBS World. For decades, an unknown number of Chinese nationals have been involved in illegal or grey businesses in Thailand, but managed to stay clear of trouble with the law, thanks mainly to the help of corrupt state officials, particularly those in the police force. So this story pulls no punches, remembering that Thai PBS World is funded by the Thai government. These shady business people have been left free to operate criminal activities that range from narcotics and arms trading to human traffic, gambling and money laundering. So we're talking about deadly, serious crimes indeed. Before the presence of these Chinese triads were exposed last year, Thai society was largely unaware of the problem. I have to say that I was a bit surprised at the extent once they started uncovering it, not to mention the extent of their grey businesses in Thailand. People in general did not know that networks of overseas Chinese, some of whom had become naturalised Thais, had made profits on Thai soil while corrupting the justice system. So it's been a very serious situation indeed. Before launching their operations in Thailand, triad bosses allegedly established connections with senior military and police officers. Some of them have even boasted connections with Thai politicians. Indeed, one of them has clarified that he donated 3 million baht to the Palang Pracharat party before the election back in 2019. 5 Bangkok police officers, the most senior was a colonel, were subsequently relieved of their duties for allegedly taking bribes. Tu Hao's wife. Now, Tu Hao was the first of the alleged gang leaders who was arrested, and it was from that investigation that everything else started to fall. Now, she was a colonel with the police force, and she was dismissed from the force as she was investigated for suspected involvement in money laundering. Recent revelations made by Chuit. Well, we know Chuit has been the whistleblower. He's the former massage parlour king, a former MP. He's been very vocal and providing the Thai police with a lot of very interesting information. So he and opposition MPs have been showing that some of the suspected triad leaders have lived in Thailand for over 3 decades. We go down a bit further. With the help of the association, this is the Shaanxi Association, which was an association set up to basically launder money and also provide the legal status for these people to come into the country. With the help of the association, some 7,000 Chinese managed to get student visas for long stays in Thailand. And Chuit claimed that crime bosses had entered the country under the foundation's cover. We also found out that some immigration police had actually set up schools so that those schools could provide ED visas. All very clever, all very deep. A wave of Chinese triads migrated to Thailand about 6 years ago after Beijing launched a crackdown on corruption that forced many grey businesses to flee to Southeast Asia. According to a professor at the Naresuan University's Faculty of Social Science. And then down the bottom there, the triads have since expanded their empire to cover various businesses ranging from legal tour agencies, restaurants, entertainment venues and hotels, to illegal prostitution and gambling outlets that cater mainly to Chinese expats. Well, I suspect we're going to hear a lot more about that story, and I'm very sure that it's going to be brought up during the forthcoming election campaign. The Thai Parliament probably going to be dissolved in the next 2 weeks for an election on May the 7th. Although apparently it's now been seen that that's going to be a long weekend, so they're debating whether that's going to be the best date. We'll keep you up to date with that. But that story there by Thai PBS World, and it's quite a deep dive into what's happened with that story so far, if you'd like to read the rest. Let's move on to our next story now, also from Thai PBS World. Thai banks unaffected by 2 recent US bank failures. Well, it's been the talk of the town in US media. These 2 banks, not huge banks, but large enough to cause concern, failing over the past week. Thailand's commercial banks and other financial institutions have not been affected by the recent failures of the US's Silicon Valley Bank and the New York-based Signature Bank over the past weeks. And the deputy government spokesperson said that no Thai commercial banks or financial institutions had invested or engaged in any transactions with the 2 failed US banks, adding that the impact of the closures on the US economy is limited because the services of the 2 banks were limited, unlike ordinary commercial banks, and thanks to swift intervention by the US regulators. It was actually very interesting. I think it was the Silicon Valley Bank that was having a run on the bank's deposits in the morning, and they'd closed by lunchtime. They weren't even going to wait until the end of the day. So things certainly happen very swiftly these days. That story goes on to say that the strict enforcement of measures by the Bank of Thailand has resulted in the strengthening of the Thai banking system and has enabled Thai commercial banks to weather the global financial and COVID-19 crises. Says a government spokesperson. That's a whole lot of fluff, but what is actually covered? Thailand has strong systems in place, she said, to protect the depositors through the creation of a 124 billion baht fund, which guarantees the deposits of up to 98% of bank deposits to the tune of 1 million baht per depositor. So for that other 2% who have got more than 1 million baht in the bank, you are only guaranteed for that first 1 million baht, but that's the current law for registered banks in Thailand. With thanks to our sponsor, 5 Star Marine, great to have you with us. Please, if you get just a moment, could you do 2 things? One, just subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. You're not going to get emails, it doesn't cost you anything. And the other thing, if you do enjoy the program, perhaps you could share it with a friend that doesn't know about TNT and see if they'd like to be kept up to date with what's happening with the Thai news cycle. I mean, those 2 things would be really appreciated. Now, I do have some good news for you tomorrow. Remember all those shirts, the Hawaiian and Songkran, the crazy shirts that I used to wear? They were donated to Seeds of Change, a charity, and turned into toy elephants. All of them have been auctioned off, and we've got the final total. And it's not the total that I told you a few weeks ago, it's actually a little bit more than that. So I'll be giving you the final amount tomorrow, and very excited and very happy for Seeds of Change. And to all those people that were involved, thank you so much for opening up your pockets, donating to Seeds of Change, and maybe one of those toy elephants will become a bit of a collector's item. Maybe not, but maybe some good memories in the meantime. Now, a follow-up to stories yesterday about some potential problems with people coming from one country, a lot of people coming from one country in a short period of time, and the potential problems that may present for Thailand. Well, this from Coconuts in Bali. And it says the Bali governor proposes stripping Russians and Ukrainians of Indonesia's VOA eligibility. Now that's the visa on arrival, which they have in Indonesia. In Thailand, people from Russia, at least, are allowed to arrive with a visa exemption, and they get a 45-day automatic stay in Thailand. Now, they can't, I don't know why, but they're not allowed to then extend that for another 30 days, unlike people from another 63 countries that are able to extend that for another 30 days. That's a situation in Thailand anyway. But back to Indonesia, and coconuts.co in Bali report that amid a rise in cases involving Russians and Ukrainians overstaying their visas or working illegally on the island of gods, the Balinese governor is appealing to the central government for the visa on arrival privilege to be stripped from the citizens of the two nations. Speaking to reporters in Denpasar yesterday, he said that Russians and Ukrainians have picked Bali as a safe haven from the escalating conflict back home. Well, not just Bali in Indonesia, but places like Phuket and Pattaya as well. They don't feel comfortable in their countries. He says many of them come to Bali not for leisure, but to find comfort, including work. And the governor said that he'd been in touch with both the Ministry of Law and Human Rights and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Indonesia over his proposal to remove both Russians and Ukrainians from the 86 nationalities eligible for the visa on arrival. He added that based on reports that he received, Russians and Ukrainians make up the highest number of violations, including visa issues and traffic offences, among foreigners in the country. And then separately, the chairman of an Indonesian Hotels and Restaurants Association said that many Russian communities in Bali need to be monitored. And that mirrors there's a dog barking out there, and that mirrors the situation here in Thailand we spoke about yesterday with some Russian people starting to get involved in businesses that could affect Thai jobs. Now, the Bangkok Post has also reported on this story. It says that Bali wants to tighten visa requirements for Russian tourists. Russian nationals are among the biggest group of foreign arrivals in Indonesia, according to official tourism data. At least 4 Russian citizens were deported this month for visa violations, and immigration authorities repeatedly warned foreigners in Bali against working on tourist visas. He added these two countries, that's Russians and Ukrainians, were singled out because their citizens' infractions were more significant than those of others. He didn't provide details on the actual violations. And the move comes as Indonesians take to social media to complain about some Russian tourist actions in Bali, including a model who posed nude at a sacred tree and a man who allegedly hit a pedestrian while driving under the influence of alcohol. Now, of course, those particular violations have been committed by people from a lot of other countries, not just Russians, but the focus is on these Russian and, to a lesser extent, Ukrainian people at the moment because of the political situation and because there's just so many coming in such a sudden surge. And as far as business and the tourism business is concerned in Thailand, I don't think you can build a sustainable tourism model around the current situation. Great to have these people spending money in the country, but it's not going to be long-term sustainable. And the story goes on to say that more than 77,000 Russians arrived in the Southeast Asian country between September 2022 and January 2023 as COVID restrictions were eased. This is talking about Indonesia, compared with about 88,000 in the same period just before the pandemic. So in Indonesia, at least, it looks like the arrival figures are quite similar to pre-COVID times. A different situation in Thailand, where the arrival numbers are some 3 to 4 times the number of arrivals of Russian citizens compared to the pre-COVID time. And then it says about 8,800 Ukrainian visitors arrived during that same period. Let's move on to our next story today, and it's from ThaiPBSWorld.com. And Pheu Thai rejects joining the Palang Pracharat party in the next governing coalition. A fairly significant announcement as we are about to embark in the election campaign. Let's dig into this, and it says that the opposition Pheu Thai party will not join the Palang Pracharat party to form the next government, even if it fails to win in a landslide in the upcoming general election. So Pheu Thai and Palang Pracharat, politically, it'd be like the Democrats and the Republicans in the United States joining forces for a coalition. Or in Australia, it'd be the Liberal Party and the Labor Party joining together to form a coalition. Very unlikely situations because politically they're sort of polar opposites. The story goes on to say that the party leader's statement is seen as rebuffing an earlier offer by General Prawit Wongsuwon, the leader of the Palang Pracharat party, that he'd try to end the political polarisation that's beset Thailand for more than a decade. Very nice sentiment, but fueled, I would say, by the fact that in the polls, the Palang Pracharat party hasn't got a hope in hell of being re-elected, and so of course he's trying to align himself with the party that is much more likely to be getting the largest number of primary votes. The opposition leader told the audience at the campaign rally, now it was in Pitsanulok, and he said that if the people support the Pheu Thai party in achieving its goal of winning up to 310 seats in the next parliament, they'll not join with any party associated with the dictatorship, as they're calling it. So 310 seats is a fairly lofty target, but if they can reach that, that would be considered indeed a landslide, because there's only 500 MP seats to be won at the next election. He said the party will form a coalition with whichever party wins the second most parliamentary seats, but that party must embrace democratic principles and be able to work with the Pheu Thai party. Well, exactly who that party would be, that's very hard to pick at the moment. I think it's fairly safe to say that the Pheu Thai party will get the highest number of primary votes, but it's all going to depend on the party that gets the second and third highest number of votes to know exactly how the numbers are going to fall and what sort of Prime Minister we might have after the May election. Let's move on to our next story today, and this from Phuket-go.com. 4 new airlines to join Thailand's crowded skies. You'd think if you're going to start a new business in Thailand, aviation's a pretty tough nut to crack. You've already got quite a lot of players in the air, and some of them aren't doing particularly well at the moment. Let's find out a bit more. The Thai Transport Ministers announced there are 4 companies seeking licences to operate airline services in Thailand: P80 Air, Really Cool Air, which sounds like a great name for an air conditioning company, not sure about an airline, Landark Airline and Siam Seaplane. The process of obtaining air service licences is expected to take some time, but probably going to be approved next year. And they join a crowded sky over Thailand, which already has Thai Air Asia, Thai Airways, Thai Lion Air, Thai Vietjet, that should be Nok Air, and Bangkok Airways. Thai Smile, the short-haul and discount offshoot from Thai Airways, is expected to be amalgamated into the parent company. P80 Air will be operated by the P80 Air Company. They also have several logistics companies in its stable, including a marine transport firm. They sound like the most settled and stable business out of the lot of them, and they're going to be providing chartered and regular flights using Boeing 787-800s, and in the first year the airline will lease 4 other planes. And then you've got Really Cool Air, owned by the former CEO of Nok Air. And after leaving Nok Air, the former CEO started a tourism booking platform called Really Cool. And Really Cool Air will also be a full-service airline. We don't really know where it's going to be travelling in Thailand, but it says it's going to be offering long-haul flight services to Australia and Europe. And then we've got Landark Airline, which is going to be flying these Cessna aircraft. I think they're also known as the Cessna Caravan, holds 10 to 12 seats, and they're going to be operating from Hat Yai to other southern provinces, initially flying to Bitong in Yala, Naritawat and Suratani. So just operating small aircraft in southern Thailand. And then Siam Seaplane will be run by Siam Seaplane Company, using its fleet of seaplanes, and it's initially providing taxi services instead of full route services. Just checking their website, says they've got the Siam Scenic, which is basically just joy flights, and the private jet charter. As far as I know, they're operating out of the Phuket International Airport, and just looking at the pictures there, it looks like their scenic flights seem to be around Phang Nga Bay and the Andaman Sea. So it doesn't look like any of them are going to be starting their major services until at least next year. The flight costs of getting around Thailand domestically still very high. What's going to happen after Songkran, which is only 3 or 4 weeks away now? I suspect that the bookings are going to start to drop. The number of international tourists will start to drop. What's going to happen? It's going to be a very interesting rest of 2023 in regards to the costs of flying into Thailand and, whilst you're here, around Thailand. And thank you very much for joining us over the past 15-20 minutes as we've wrapped up most of the stories happening today in the news cycle. Hopefully you can join us again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.